Um, we're going to move on with stories from the field, primary health care, and they kind of already said they're a federally qualified health center. I personally am really excited to have them come up and speak because they work with a lot of the underserved, Medicaid, transient population, so I'm very excited to have them come up and talk and be a part of the BTN because they have a lot of stories that they can share and they can disseminate out. So that's not their introduction, but I was just saying thank you. um, so Julie Roush is one of the speakers coming up. She is the Chief Quality Officer for Primary Healthcare. She has a bachelor's degree in nursing from Truman State University and is a certified case manager. In her role at Primary Healthcare, she oversees the Performance Improvement Program, Nurse Care Management Department, and Chronic Condition Health Home, and the Quality and Data Management. Nathan Simpson serves as the Director of Clinic Operations for Primary Healthcare. They serve Central Iowa. In this role, Nathan oversees the operations of 6 medical clinics, including residency clinics in Polk, Marshall, and Story County. He holds a degree in corporate communication from Simpson College and a master's degree in healthcare administration from Des Moines University. Please join me in welcoming Julie and Nathan.
So obviously, I'm Julie, this is Nathan. Just to start out to explain a little bit about primary health care, we are, as Melissa said and I said earlier, we're a federally qualified community health center. We have 6 medical sites and 3 dental sites. Our third dental site just opened probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And we also serve a lot of programs. So we do homeless advocacy outreach. We operate the Project of Central Iowa, which is for AIDS and HIV, as well as numerous other endeavors that we get ourselves into. Talking about what phase are you in, I would say we're kind of between the phase 1 and 2 of what Susan just talked about. As far as data reporting, just to give a status on that, we finally reported some data to Melissa. I would say it was probably not our EHR or anything like that. It was Melissa's perseverance that got us to finally do it. So just getting started with Compass, we actually kind of dipped our toe in very slowly. When we first started hearing about TCPI, TPN, Compass, IHC, MACRA, MIPS, it was kind of this, which is just more and more this alphabet soup of all these incentives and initiatives that we could be part of. So we were slow to take that on. But about a year ago, we did dip our toe in a little bit here, exactly a year ago, and realized that really to be prepared for the change that everyone talks about, that shift from volume to value, we really needed to plug in and get involved and understand what was coming. Our leadership is fantastic at Primary Health Care. We have a very great executive leadership team that fully recognize that we don't know how, but we do know we need to pursue more performance initiatives, more performance improvement. So we really took that and evaluated where we were. We used Sarah Pavelka and Melissa both. They came out and kind of helped us do an assessment where we were, where we needed to go, and really recognized that first and foremost we needed to get our leadership team really up to par with performance improvement. So that's where we've started. We're needing to take performance improvement from a department of a few, which is kind of where we were, to an organizational initiative, and that's a huge undertaking. So it's leaders initially understanding how to use the tools of PI and how to operationalize that and actually use it in the clinics.
So as we worked with Compass, we kind of came to a conclusion that we needed to approach PI from 2 fronts. So as Julie said, the first step in that was the leadership training and getting the investment from the top. And in the past, when we've done PI, in our organization, that's exactly how it's been. It's been top-driven. and we realized that we needed to not only work from the top down, but also from the bottom up. So we had that initial meeting with our leadership team, got their buy-in and support, introduced what Compass was, what PI was again, what tools were out there, but then we also rolled it out to the clinic level. And so we worked with our clinic director team and some of the department managers and introduced Compass, introduced PI principles, what it could do for them, and then really letting them getting their buy-in, letting them decide what was important to them and getting them to work on those initiatives. So not necessarily how can we get your diabetics in compliance, how can we get your patients with hypertension in compliance, but what's not going right in your clinics, or what workflow challenges do you have, and letting them see what PI can do for them. So that was really the two-front approach that we started with.
So for our leadership training, again, if you haven't plugged into your quality improvement advisor or Sarah Pavelka's services, that's a great first step to take. They really bring a lot of insight, support, teaching you, training you on how to use the tools. I think at Primary Healthcare we really assumed our leadership understood PDSA, understood cause and effect, but in actuality, you're just doing your everyday operational things, and sometimes those skills don't develop with you. So it was really an eye-opener that we really needed to redevelop those skills in our leadership. We worked with Sarah to establish and communicate a vision for PI at Primary Healthcare. We really shifted our department around. Again, before it was very much a department. It was not an organizational idea or concept. So to see success, you have to definitely spread it out and get everybody up to speed. We chose to really find champions. Obviously, I heard someone else say they're in a huge practice. You have a lot of sites that you have to support. We have 6 medical sites, and it feels like 1,000 sometimes. So finding those champions in every site. I'm one person, I can't do it all. Nathan's one person, he can't be at every clinic every time. So it's finding who are your champions, who understands it, who's passionate about it, and involving them from the get-go. We've used we use kind of a subcommittee structure. So those champions lead their own subcommittees, and they pull staff in from all the sites. So we involve our front office staff, we involve our nurse care managers, we involve a CMA, we involve providers, we involve our revenue folks, so people from billing. It's really important to get a really broad spectrum of people involved in bringing their ideas to the table. And so the concept there, too, is having these champion leaders at the subcommittees. Their job then is to train the trainers. So you have all this representation at the subcommittee level working on PI. Their job then is to go back to their clinics and spread that message and spread those concepts to their team, so that hopefully we keep training the trainers so everyone gets a stronger grasp of what they need to do.
So as I hinted to before, as we tried to build PI into our culture, develop a culture of quality, we encouraged our clinics to really, well, not just our clinics, but all of our departments to really find what their passion was and what they felt was improvement areas that they needed to work on, and reaching out to Compass to see if that's something that they could help with. And our thought was that if we could build that, if we could encourage people to take that kind of initiative and build that self-reliance, that they would in turn then drive the other things that we need to improve on. So the clinical measures that we do need to improve, if they could get the basic tenets and principles of PI down, then they would be more likely to improve in other areas as well. So some examples of clinic level training were a lot of workflow mapping. So 2 things that we've worked on most recently was our EMR downtime process. We thought that we had a really good downtime process in the course of a stretch of probably about 2 weeks where we had several long outages with our EMR. We realized that was not the case. Our EMR downtime process varied greatly depending on what site you were at or what your role was. So Sarah and Melissa came out and really helped our EMR steering committee work through what our process was, and we all thought that we had with this consistent process, and even the people in that group thought we had a consistent process. And, Sarah and Melissa were really able to tease out objectively what really happens with EMR downtime and what opportunities do we have to standardize. So that was really a success for us. And then also improving patient rooming and wait times. So that's something that's kind of a systemic issue with all of our clinics. And a couple of our clinic directors have really been have not been hesitant to reach out to Sarah and Melissa to try to improve upon those things. So as we work with Compass more and more, we're seeing people not hesitating to reach out and thinking through the process, and instead of trying to fix it themselves or ignore the problem, I hear them asking, is that something that you think that we could reach out to Compass to see if that they could help us with? And that question is being asked more and more, so I think we're moving in the right direction as far as building that culture of quality.
Some of our successes have definitely been our staff engagement. They're bringing fresh perspectives, new ideas. They're getting involved. Now that's not to say that we have everyone involved and on board, but again, you start with the champions and the people who are invested and interested. We're encouraging and supporting implementation of just small pilots at our sites to see what little things can be changed or improved upon, so that you see those little wins, and that continues then, PDSA after PDSA. People get more momentum, more success, more confidence. It's amazing to see that there are a lot more decisions that are data-driven instead of just anecdotal side notes people make. People who would never have asked before to see the data, they're now coming to the table, and someone brings an idea and they say, well, where's your data? What are you using to support that decision or that recommendation? So even at our leadership level, that's really improved a lot. The hands-on training and in-person expertise and availability, as we've already said, being able just to call Compass has been tremendous support and help for us. And again, just increasing our confidence with the PI tools and processes. This last year has been monumental in that area.
So some of the barriers that we've experienced were, some of them were self-imposed, I would say. So the first was a reporting requirement and resource scarcity. So, in this era where, we're asked to report on more and more things, this was one of the things that kind of made us apprehensive about pursuing this relationship or maybe using it to its fullest extent. So just the reporting of that data back to Compass and TCPI, we kind of stood in our own way for a while. But it really reinforced that it was part of the change. So as Julie said, we did finally report the data. And so now we know that we need to be more accountable to different organizations. And reporting that back to Compass is really just, another instance of why data is so important and why that's all the different organizations that we're going to be more accountable to going forward. And then one of the other main barriers is comfort with the status quo. So, it's always easier to just stand still and not make any kind of change, especially when there's the perception that there's not enough time. And I think that's really in my opinion, that's the biggest barrier that we had with doing any kind of PI process or trying to incorporate that into the fabric of our culture, is just people feeling like, well, I don't have the time to do that. This is just one more thing. And really it's that shift from thinking that PI is something that you do to it's the base of everything you do. And it's really helped us to work with Compass in that aspect, because we've been able to help everybody down to the frontline staff walk through the steps, make time-bound goals, see that, especially working on things that were important to them, that they're able to see that, well, I do have time, and actually, if I do these things, I'll end up with more time. So that was another way that we were standing in our own way that I think we've overcome to a certain extent.
A few other barriers we've had is just levels of proficiency and acceptance of PI, which I've already talked about, and just limitations of our technology. Sometimes when we want to see data, looking for specific things, it's very hard to get that, again, out of our EMR or our population health system, setting up searches correctly, validating the data. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of knowledge, and we haven't always had that knowledge. internally, so we've had to reach outside that, our own internal resources to get clarification.
So in summary, developing and sustaining a culture of quality is an ongoing effort. And, you know, we are very much, you know, Julie said we're kind of in between phases 1 and 2, as she alluded to the other presentation. But I guess in my opinion, we're kind of in the crawl phase, in the, you know, crawl, walk, run system. We're definitely just starting to learn how to use PI to drive what we do. And we are vastly advanced from where we were. Compass can also assist with propagating the desired culture with hands-on expertise, assistance, and guidance. So I don't think we could have got where we are now without Compass, or without, you know, the expertise that they provide. We've tried to go it alone for a long time, and we haven't been near where we're at right now. And then lastly, create your performance improvement vision, involve key stakeholders to garner leadership engagement, and allow time with effort to change the culture and drive change. And so I think it's really tempting for us to just, well, for anybody to really work on, you know, what the issue is at hand, and not try to develop the tools that people need to have to drive change in a sustainable way. So that's something that we've really appreciated that Compass has been able to provide us with.
Any questions?
We do have a couple. So one of the questions that we received, who was involved in the clinical level training? How much time commitment for providers went into PI training?
So far, really with our subcommittee type structure, we have a few providers participate on that 1 to 2 times a month. It's usually an hour to an hour and a half long. We utilize our provider meetings, which are held once a month, to do training and report out data and information to providers. And then just internally, so when the clinics go back, or staff go back to their own clinics and start creating their own PDSAs and their own pilots that they want to trial, there's planning and involvement in that. I couldn't really give you a time amount, but again, it's just embedding it in the fabric of what they do every day. So sometimes it's 5 minutes here or there when the team can get together.
Thank you. And what are 1 to 2 resources that you need that perhaps haven't been provided by Compass or TCPI at this point that you'd look for in the future that would be supportive?
I think right at this moment in time, we're realizing that we probably need more expertise in the areas of lean or PDSA or that type of training. We're kind of considering getting a few of our staff people trained in those concepts. And I don't know that Compass is necessarily the right resource to do that in its entirety, so we would look outside to do that. But they bring the tools, so even if you're not an expert in lean or an expert in PDSA, they can bring the tools that you can use for any given situation and train on those individual things. So that would be one area. I can't think of another.
I would say using data to drive improvement. So I think we've got a lot of, we're learning how to use the tools, and we're learning how to make improvements, but it's really tying the improvement to the data and using that going forward that I think is a challenge for us in some areas as well. So especially for our leadership, to be able to take the data that we have gotten through these performance improvement initiatives, but then using that, you know, to drive, you know, future processes, future decision making. Just tying the two together, I think, is a resource that we would like to develop more.
Excellent, thank you. And then we do have one additional question, but I think this is more of a Meg and Melissa question. So we have some clinics that are reporting 1 quality measure currently. When are they expected to start reporting a second measure?
Good. It's my favorite to talk in front of everybody. So there's no actual expectation to report a second measure. We would encourage it. That way you can get used to seeing your measures on a monthly basis, because I know a lot of clinics right now maybe see it yearly or quarterly. But once you get more familiar with our process as far as getting your practice assessment done, used to putting that one quality data in, getting your QI work plan in. Once you get more used to the workflow, then I would say that would be time to start doing a second or third measure of your choosing. So.
Right. Thank you again to Primary Healthcare.